Let us move to the next topic in this chapter, that is the importance of variations. I have already told and talked about the definition of the word variations in the previous topic. Let us once again recall the changes that takes place in the produced DNA copy during DNA copying are called as variations. Or we can also define the word variations in other way. The structural differences among the individuals of a species are also called as variations. Number of times board is asking a question regarding these variations. Variations may not be helpful for an individual, but they are very much important to a species. Justify the statement. I repeat, variations may not be helpful for an individual, but they are very much important for a species. Justify the statement. This is the question number of times asked by the board. So how can we justify this statement? What is the relationship between variations and species? To understand this, I will be giving an example, an illustration here to understand or to make you understand in detail. Statement is variations may not be helpful. May not be helpful for an individual, but they are very much important for a species. How can we justify this? You imagine there is a stream of water. I think all of you know stream of water, where the water continuously gets flow. So in a stream, you imagine or assume there is a species of bacteria happily surviving, happily living in this stream, where the temperature is always optimum 35 degrees centigrade. In this stream, the temperature is, for example, 35 degrees centigrade. This is a very good habitat for a species of bacteria which is providing good or sound environmental conditions for them to survive better. This Nike or habitat provides good environmental conditions for this species of bacteria to survive better in this stream. Because the environmental conditions are suitable, sufficient amount of food is available in this habitat or Nike, the population of this bacteria is happily increasing. There is no problem with that. They are reproducing and increasing their number. Always you have to keep a point in your mind. Environment is not always supportive for a living thing to survive. Sometimes environment may give challenges to the living things in the form of changes in the environment. So for example, you imagine all of a sudden one day, all these examples and illustrations we have to assume to understand the statement given by the board. So all of a sudden one day there is a meteorite hit in that stream. I think you know in your social classes you have talked about meteorites, a small piece of planets or something which are coming with high speed from the space, which have high temperature. So meteorite all of a sudden one day hits this stream. When this meteorite hits the stream, all of a sudden the temperature of this habitat or Nike increases to 45 degrees centigrade. Normally it has 35, but after this meteorite hit, what happened? It all of a sudden increased to 45 degrees centigrade. This particular species of bacteria is only able to survive at 35 degrees centigrade only. Are you getting my point? So what happens when this meteorite hits this stream? All the bacteria population which are living in this stream got dead, and the species has to wipe out of the earth. It has to be disappeared, right? So In that situation, normally what we think, that species may completely extincted, that bacterial species may completely extincted at that extreme temperatures they cannot survive, so that species has been extincted, like that we think. But surprisingly, one particular bacteria, even though the temperature has gone up to 45 degrees centigrade, it had survived and happily living in that stream. What would be the reason behind it? All other bacterial species, all other bacterial population had been killed because of this meteorite hit, leaving only this particular one bacteria. What would be the reason behind it? The reason behind it is, when this bacteria is being produced from its parental cell at the time of DNA copying. Are you getting my point? At the time of DNA copying, which involves thousands of chemical reactions, there are some changes had been taken place in this produced DNA, in which it has a heat variation. It has a change in which it has a heat variation, and that heat variation gave a survival chance for this bacteria to live in extreme temperature conditions. How this bacterial cell had got it? It has been got it. It acquired it from its parental cell through variations at the time of DNA copying. If this heat variation, if it is not being formed and given to this bacterial cell, due to this meteorite hit, this species has to be extincted from the surface of Earth. This heat variation may not be individually helpful for this bacteria, but because of this heat variation, this bacteria survived and it can lead its life. After some time, it can reproduce and it can produce its young ones in such a way it can continue its species without getting extincted from the surface of Earth. So by giving this example, you can give a statement to the above sentence given by the board. Are you getting my point? Variations may not be helpful for this bacteria to survive individually. This heat variation, which acquired at the time of DNA copying, may not be helpful for this bacteria to survive individually, but when there are extreme climatic conditions in the habitat, all other bacterial individuals have been killed because of this meteorite hit. But this single cell can survive and it can reproduce and continue its species on the surface of the Earth without getting extincted. In this way, variations are helpful for the species. Like that, you can give a conclusion.